Hey guys, I am Game Advisor and welcome to our mount guide video. Today we're going to be talking about the new mounts in Icarus, how you tame them, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and all the nitty gritty details. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Now, first things first, let's actually cover where you can find these mounts. So they currently seem to be spawning somewhere on Olympus around L10. They could be spawning in other places, but generally speaking, I would say look in the foresty biomes. I'm not sure if they're actually on sticks yet at this point. It's very possible they could be. Somebody can feel free to let us know down in the comments below. But either way, what you're going to be looking for is a very tall bird looking thing, and you're going to want to look for the one that's kind of like got this brownish color. That's the one you're going to want to kill. And then you'll find a little baby one nearby. And when I say baby, they're not like tiny baby deer size. We're talking like about half to 2/3 the size of the adult one. And with the buffaloes, you're just gonna be killing a regular looking buffalo, and you're gonna be looking for the baby one, which kind of has like this weird grayish tint to it. Now, as far as the actual taming process goes, again, it's really simple. I've kind of already covered it. All you need to do is kill the adult one whenever you find a young one nearby. And then as long as there are no other adults nearby, it should just kind of stand and walk around for a second. You can walk up to it. You're going to press F or whatever your interact button is bound to on your keyboard in order to actually make it follow you. At that point, you have two options. You can take it all the way back to your base, at which point you're going to want to have all the different things, which will cover the actual process of how they get their percentages to go up faster and stuff in just a second. Or you can go ahead and place a feeding trough down really quick to get the taming process started with just a few pieces of food. This is really only meant to be a way to get that taming process started, but you can also set up a small structure and use all the stuff to actually tame it completely right then and there. It's just going to take you a little bit. Now, once you have it following you and you bring it back to wherever you want to keep it or store it, your stable, whatever you want to call it, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a bed, a feeding trough, a watering trough, and a saddle. Now, the saddle you don't necessarily need at the end of the day, but I would recommend it as they're pretty worthless without one. Once you get that mount near an actual bed, you'll start to notice it's going to want to wander to it on its own. This is intentional pathing and it's pretty easy to do. I would also recommend at this point in time that if you haven't already built a stable and you just have a bed kind of laying around, that you take the time to build yourself some kind of enclosure or stable at the very least, even if it's just wooden fence posts outside, to keep these things safe, because predators will try to come after them and they do die pretty quickly. So again, it's going to automatically wander to that bed, it'll sleep for a little bit, and then it'll try to eat. As long as you keep its hunger and its happiness up, and the happiness just means sleep at this point in time, then you should be good to go. So it's very easy to do. Now, in order to fill the water trough, in case you're having problems with that, all you need to do is equip a watering container into your hand slot, then go ahead and hold F on it. You can also use them as storages, so you could store water in them if you don't have a way to carry a large amount around with you. This can be used outside of taming pets as well for that purpose. Now, once you've got all of the satisfactory things set up for your tame, you're just going to have to wait approximately 15 minutes. This can vary a little bit based on how quickly it gets to sleep, how quickly it eats, how close everything is together. But generally speaking, it's approximately 15 minutes. I think I've seen it go as low as like 13 or 14 and as high as like 20 to 30, depending on if it was able to sleep quickly or eat quickly, or if they're like on the opposite side of the room and it's having pathing problems. So you may have to keep an eye on it for that, because these guys definitely have pathing problems sometimes. But for the most part, they're not too bad. Now, once they're completely done and they get to 100% of their tame meter, you'll then have to claim them by interacting with them with your F key, at which point you'll also be able to name it if you decide you want to do that. It's very easy to do that. You don't have to name them. It really just kind of gives you some random name when you do tame it. So it's not going to say Moa or Buffalo. It's probably going to say some weird variant of what they feel is a good pet name. But again, this doesn't really impact anything. You can go ahead and throw your saddle onto it by going into its inventory slot. And I do want to point out that the buffalo saddle is not rideable, so keep that in mind. And now let's go ahead and talk about the actual benefits to each one of the two different mounts that we currently have access to. Keep in mind, these things may change over time, given the updates that they put out. Now, your main benefit to the Moa is going to be speed. The Moa is built for traveling. It is not meant to hold a lot of cargo. It is simply made for you to throw a saddle on it and get really far across the map very quickly. I would say it's roughly 30 to 40% faster than the buffalo, and it's significantly faster than any player character can actually run when it's sprinting. Its walk speed is also significantly faster than any player can walk, so it will get you across the map quicker. However, you can't actually do combat on its back, so that means if you want to, say, shoot a bow, shoot a gun, attack something with a knife or a spear, you're going to have to dismount and then attack it. This can be frustrating, but given the fact that the MOA has a lot of speed, you can usually create that distance between you and whatever target, whether it be a bear, a wolf, whatever, and then jump off and shoot arrows at them, or do however you want to do your combat. The key thing to remember here is that the MOAs are very weak, so they will die very, very quickly. One thing you can do to help with that, though, is put them on a follow or a stay command. If you put them on the follow command, obviously they're going to follow you around, which can be useful, especially if you're planning to dismount and walk around. But the stay command can also be useful. Say you're going in a cave and you don't want your MOA to follow you in and get killed by the cave worms. Now, the buffalo, on the other hand, is more of a semi-combat oriented mount. It's really not combat oriented, to be completely honest with you. It does very little damage. It's about 30, which, if you've played any of Icarus, you know is not that much damage. Like a stone knife to the body on a resistant part of an animal usually will do that much. So it's not that useful for combat purposes unless you create a herd of them, which I'll talk about here in just a second. Either way, though, it does have a significantly larger health pool by about 40 to 50%. It also does still have the ability to run, and it has a larger stamina pool, but it does still go significantly slower. So again, we're looking at about 40% reduced travel speed with the buffalo. A player with a lot of move speed talents and modules and other things like that can actually travel about as fast as the buffalo can sprint. Therefore, in those cases, the buffalo is pretty much worthless for travel, unless you're trying to use it as like a meat shield or a tank or something. You can actually use these guys and put them near a boss or near enemies and let them target the buffalo instead of yourself. Again, their health pool is bigger, but not by much. They still die pretty darn quick. With that being said, the buffalo does have your follow and stay command, but it also comes with a passive and a aggressive command. The more aggressive one of the two commands will allow the buffalo to actually attack animals whenever it's attacked, instead of simply running away like the MOA will do. And again, we can get these guys in pretty big herds to actually follow us around. So if, say, you could get 10 of these buffaloes, you could have your own little mini buffalo army with you. However, when these animals are following you, they won't usually sprint unless they are the only animal following you. I'm not sure why this is. I'm not sure if this is a bug, but this just means the buffaloes are going to be really slow if you're carrying around a herd of buffaloes with you. Speaking of which, let's talk about the other benefit that the buffalo is kind of supposed to have, but really doesn't, and that's the cargo capacity. By default, the base saddle gives the buffalo 6 cargo slots, whereas the MOA will get 2. The unfortunate part, however, is the fact that both of them will only get 100 kilograms of carrying weight, regardless of what saddle they have, which is great and all, but not really that useful when we're talking about, saying, going and doing an ore mining run. At the end of the day, they can really only carry 2 to 2.5, maybe 3, depending on which ores you're getting, of actual ore before they're over encumbered and they start moving incredibly slow. With that being said, an option is to take the buffalo with the advanced saddle option it has, which is found in tier 3, and this will actually allow you to have 15 cargo slots on the buffalo, but they will not be mountable. It's kind of like a pack mule idea here. But again, with them both having only 100 kilograms of weight, you can have 15 slots, but you can still only carry so much. Therefore, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I would just not even bother crafting the advanced buffalo mount or pack, rucksack, whatever it is that you want to call it, on its back. It's not worth the cost. It costs platinum weave, it costs a tier 3 bench. It's just not worth your time. Even if you did make it, at the end of the day, it's still going to get over encumbered unless you're just gathering like vegetables and fiber and stuff. Speaking of which, you cannot feed your animals unless you have a feeding trough at this current point in time. So keep in mind that if you're doing a long distance travel, you're going to want to bring a feeding and a watering trough with you so that you can actually feed and water your animal while you're on the go. Otherwise, it will not be possible. Food-wise, they're just going to eat any vegetables or fruit. It's very straightforward. Now, I'm just going to give you guys a little little bit of my opinions on these, and that's just the simple fact that I think both of them are fairly worthless for endgame players. The MOA takes somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes to find and get tamed, and then you have to also go ahead and craft up to all these different materials, which aren't that expensive, but again, by the time you're getting this thing tamed, it's questionable to if the move speed is really worth it. 40% move speed is a lot faster than a player runs. It looks like they could even go maybe up to 70 to 80% faster than a player can run with perks. But again, if you could spend 30 minutes just running to where you need to run to in your mission, or 30 minutes grinding these materials and actually taming a MOA, which would you rather do? Personally, I'd rather just be doing my mission. Don't get me wrong, they're cool, but the buffalo is totally worthless. I see no point in taming a buffalo unless you are brand new and are just barely able to get them, because by the time you have any move speed talents, any move speed gear, they're just worthless. They go the same speed as you. If they don't have any more carry weight than the MOA, the only thing they have going for them is a little bit of extra health, which isn't enough to warrant actually taming them. So in my personal opinion, I would say if you're gonna tame anything, tame a MOA. They're way more useful, but at the end of the day, unless you don't have a lot of move speed items, or you're doing a mission that takes you all the way across the map and then back again, I would say just don't even bother, because you could spend that time running to where you need to and then running back rather than spending that time taming a MOA. And again, you guys are free to do whatever you want. This is just my personal opinion on what I feel is best with these mounts. I hope they get a little buff. They're talking about making them so that you can kind of bring them in and out of missions, or giving them levels, which may change the whole field with this. But at the end of the day, they're still cool. I still enjoy them. I will probably use them a few times just for fun, but in all practicality, these mounts just are not impactful enough, I feel, for most players to actually use. So with that being said, I hope you guys found some valuable information out of this video, and I want to give a special shout out to our Platinum and above channel members, which include Caustic FPV and Jim Phillips. Thank you guys so much. You guys are huge supporters of the channel, and I really appreciate it. Thank you all again just for watching. If you didn't watch this, we wouldn't even have a channel in the first place. So thank you. I'm Game Advisor, and I'll see you next time.